Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Nisha Sundaragopal.
Dr. Sun representing the world.
Representing the world. And today, we want to talk about certain important things that I want to address to the world. It is actually first very wonderful to address this video to the whole world. It is a collaborative, collective term in not just in the person, but it also in the minds of the people in today's world. This is a positive sign, which is in the event of COVID-19, the world has tried to come together. We see a lot of attempts and efforts to come together. So what are we going to discuss today is very important. The news says that I want to discuss the headlines of today's news. Crude oil prices didn't fall just below zero ever, but it just fell today. And here's what that means. And there is more headlines. US oil prices plunge into negative territory. Live markets update. Oil crashes 305%. Oil plunges below zero for the first time in the unprecedented wipeout. So what does all of this means? Around 8 to 9 weeks ago, in my first proposition to the White House, I had made a recommendation to do what is called as freezing the world economy or freezing the stock market. There's two different things in that. We can call the situation as CRYO marketing the world. And what we're going to do is we're going to cryo economy, meaning freezing the economy. What I'm going to discuss is a very unique topic called bioeconomics. And why this term is because today's world, the cure, I keep listening to Trump, Mr. Pence, and I keep listening to every politician in the world talking about the cure should not be worse than the disease itself. I made my first video regarding the reverse approach model, categorizing the people into 7 categories. And under the term vulnerables and protecting the vulnerables, then the regular people can start working regularly, and in terms of any infection, they are less likely to get a severe infection, and we will be developing a herd immunity or acquired immunity. So why bioeconomics? So this disease that's pondering the whole world, it cannot be addressed just on the terms of the medical effect. It's not a disease that's just treated in the hospital, because the effects of the disease is the world is at a standstill. The world is actually frozen. So when the world is actually frozen, why are we worried about economy? Who created economy? People. Who laid the regulations in terms of economy? People. Who defines everything in economy? People. So why can't we change the terms? Why can't we change the rules and regulations? It's us who defines everything. So there's nothing to be worried about in terms of economy. So what we really need to do right now, yes, oil price is going to crash. Yes, everything is going to crash. When nothing is functional in this world, and we have seen before when it happened, when I came and said, do CRYO Market, people, it's going to be hard for even President Trump to understand it. I've been pushing the Democratic folks to actually start talking about it. The reason behind it is if something is put on the table by the Democrats, it's more easier for the Republicans to agree to it, because we live in a world, a bipartisan world. But is all the people the same? The whole world is the same. We know that today. We are all on the same exact space in time, that the world is at a standstill because of the COVID. There's no boundaries, there's no the virus doesn't know boundaries. It's just spread throughout the world. So what do? Number one is a cryo market or a cryo economy. So let's give the option for the stocks market as well as the companies that hold public stocks to actually choose to go into a cryo phase. And we call that as cryo phasing. So when we call this cryo phasing of this whole world, meaning cryo means freezing in medical term. I'm fusing medicine with economy to cure this whole world and resolve the problem in this world and planet Earth. And as a doctor, we always aim at cure and recovery. The same thing is focused onto the world right now. And how do we focus on our recovery? The recovery is easy when there is no loss. So in the field of medicine, that is why I proposed the reverse approach model where we are protecting the vulnerable and we are preventing a loss or a death or a fatality. So what happens when we apply that on economy? This is what's going to happen. Loss in terms of money, loss in terms of jobs. I hear the news saying 22 million jobs have been lost, 22 million Americans filing for unemployment. So we need to understand that is a very stressful term to hear. And in the terms of world economy, this puts US in a point many economists are saying the path to recovery is becoming harder day by day. So what do? Hold the problem right in the middle of this pandemic and make sure that the recovery is easy. And just listening to the economist is not going to create a cure for this situation. You need a doctor's advice. And healthcare team is actually projecting the task force, the predictions and the expectations, what and how and based on which they are running the economy. President Trump has proposed the three-phased recovery phase, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I want to address this to all the 50 governors of the country. But before I do that, I want to talk about cryo marketing, reinforce cryo marketing or cryo facing the world economy. I call it as a cryo facing world economy. Even if human beings are a little hesitant to apply this, remember, my videos are going to be forwarded 100 years from now. It can be a best simulation virtual thought process for formulating an action plan so that this could be definitely a very considerable option in the future, if not necessarily in today's world. Because the today's world, people are very reluctant for accepting a change. Because the economists, they just go by their books, what they're being taught. You need to change accordingly as the world changes. In medicine and in the field of dentistry, we treat a case by case basis. If one bacteria or a virus is going to affect a person, not necessarily every person is going to have the same symptom. So we treat every case on a case-by-case basis. We have a general term, and from that guidelines, we go on taking care of each patient on case-by-case basis. There are standard of care guidelines, but in economy, it is a little different. So we cannot equate standard of care here, but the world economy is running on an engine which was just fueled by the stock market and the basic theories that's been taught to them and formulated to them on the business schools. And that's what defines, and what they know about economy is that's what they actually have been guiding the governments. Today is not the past. Today is not the future. Today is today, and it's different. Ever since this pandemic started, I've been proposing this cryo phasing. And I do not know if this cryo-phasing will be effective in today's situation in this pandemic of COVID. But definitely I want to propose it. And the reason behind it is a very easier solution. Give options to the stock markets, to the companies to go into a cryo phase voluntarily. And you will be surprised to see how many companies will naturally get into the cryo phase. And the reason behind it is the stock markets that are not doing well right now, let's give them the option to freeze their stock prices. And the reason behind it is nobody is working right now. So, there is no buying and selling going on. So what is defining the stock market? There is really nothing. So if the markets fall down like the flights, once this is all over, don't focus everything on this one sector of time. Why do the government needs to bail out air force? Not the force, air industry, air flight industry. Why does the government needs to bail out? Don't prevent this bailout situation to even happen on the first place. One big umbrella, money. Who is giving the money to the world, right? The banks. The banks and federal and everything, the money is on the top. I am not an economist, but I can tell you from like a general perspective, the banks and the money institutions are on the top and they pump money into the world, and the governments, they help to define the sectors and stuff, and they help the allocation of the funds, and the people and the companies underneath that, they are borrowing this money and they're being utilizing it. So this is the point here. So we need to understand that what we're going to have to do about taking care of these economic conditions. So we already talked about cryo-phasing, cryo-marketing, stock market, and cryo-phasing the world economy. And this is what I want us to do virtually. Reboot planet Earth. So what do? Temporarily put it under pause and rebooting it. And yes, we can do it virtually. I have an IT background also, and I specialize in virtual machines. And we always test. I am a quality assurance tester, a bug finder, and I can find bugs in literally any software that's out there. No matter, now software is foolproof. So we can literally reboot planet Earth. Freeze it, stop it right now. Like what we are right now, we are really not working. Our world is not functional. But are we still living? Yes, we are still living. So is there any impact? No, there is no impact. So let's give voluntary options so that people, the share market, I know that some shares are doing really well. And if they want to make money on this market, let them make it. But there should be somebody who is going to buy those shares. So investors can invest it. But people need to understand that it is again a balance. How much can one stock can go up, right? The investors needs to understand. Do not fuel the inflation. Do not take short-term benefits. Let's just wait. Let's not gonna be rushing on money. There's lots of years in the later where you can think about money, money, money. I want the world to focus on one aspect, is to have a speedy recovery so we can all go back to a normal life. Is anybody don't want to agree to it? Can ideally let me know right now, because I think the whole world will agree to one point. We want a speedy recovery from COVID-19. We want rebooting planet Earth. We don't want fatalities or deaths, and we do not want losses in terms of jobs, in terms of money, in terms of assets. So the next phase, we are heading towards the next phase is, right now we saw the loss of jobs. The next phase would be loss of assets. People, we need to understand. We are living in an apartment, a rental facility, or a home owned by a homeowner. It's under mortgage or it's fully paid, or some people are living in mobile homes. Some people are living in some government assisted facilities. We need to understand, we all have a shelter in a very advanced nation of United States of America, and that's our liberty nation. And we need to understand that there are countries out there where people do not have a shelter. So the last thing that should happen is people being thrown out from their homes without shelter. The situation is going to get worse. That's the worst thing that can happen. So in order for that to happen, already the banks have given us the 6 months deferment to 3 months deferment, no penalty loan deferment, which is awesome. And it can go keep extending until we get a vaccine, we start going out there until we go to phase 3 and a phase normal. So it's the banks, it's the top layer that just needs to tell, let's not worry about payments. We would recommend everybody would keep paying until to a point you cannot pay. But you can have the government and the economists can make a formulation where how much of the amount people can store and how much of the amount they can deplete by paying these bills. Because we need some basic amount for this whole world so that the government can plan to push in stimulus package whenever the people are going to deplete their funds, because we want people to have money only for food, shelter, not for the shelter, because the shelter at this point of time is going to be not the thing to be worried about. Everybody needs to have a shelter. Nobody should be kicked off from their roofs. This is what I call it. Roof is one of the basic necessity. Nobody should be kicked off from their rental places for any reason for money. So we really need to make sure that the money institutions, they're going to have to say, keep paying the bills until you can, but do not take your food reserve out. And the Fed has to come out and say, people have this much amount stocked up in your balance, in your savings account, so that you can keep paying for food and basic necessities and essentials and medicines for the living, and your stuff from toilet paper to regular paper to whatever you want to buy for your home, you have that money stocked up. And if somebody really cannot afford to pay any mortgage, they can be very transparent to their government and they can just get a permission to not pay a bill. They can be transparent to their bank, so that way they have very, very transparent and they are letting their situation known to their banks. So that way the banks will auto calculate the period and then they will just make sure they'll readjust everything. So this is the number one to take care of. So let's cryo phase the world economy, cryo freeze the stock market, give voluntary options for some companies who want to freeze their stocks so that their stocks are not crashing down to a penny stock. And we can, from the Dow Jones and everything, can set a time. They can call it as the P time, which meaning before pandemic and after pandemic. And so they can set a time period and they can freeze the stock market. Whoever wants to freeze it at what point on the P time, they can freeze it there, and they're going to restart when the P time ends. So it's like the pan time or the P time is the pandemic time. They can create new term. And I already created a term called bioeconomics, because when the biology and the medicine is having a hand-in-hand relationship in cure for the world's economy, then we have to call it as a bioeconomy. And it is very, very important. And then I want to talk about, so we already talked about these things, and I have some points that I wanted to discuss. So, and then we talked about the bills and the payments. I have a very simple solution. I know that the President Trump gave us the small business loans, the SBA loan stimulus, the stimulus package, the SBA loans, the EIDL, the Triple P program, and all the lenders that's been lending the money. Thank you so much for these wonderful economic packages. But question is, how long and how much are we going to keep doing this? So after tomorrow's 250 billion pumping funds, let's just not do it again. And governors, I hear literally every of the governor that has united and asking for funds from the federal to reboot their own state economies. How much can President Trump do? Where does the Fed even come up with that money? In Hindu mythology, we call it as Kalpavriksha or Akshaya Patra, meaning that it keeps pouring. But we don't have enough money. This will weaken the dollar if the dollar is being pumped in more and more. I have a very wonderful solution for your issues. To me, is that nobody has money at this point of time. You can have a liquidation plan from your each state's people's money. The bank, instead of taking money from the bank, there are actually real rich people. For example, Warren Buffett. For example, Mr. Bill Gates. For example, Mark Zuckerberg. All these big giants have tons of money that's just loaded up. Let the state governments take loan from them. Leave the feds alone. Plan different. It's not always going to be the banks because there is money stocked up under these people. Take loans from them. Let's borrow from them. Let's have the state governments pay interest to these people who were successful enough to get money and stock up money because they were entrepreneurs. They were successful people. Instead of the banks doing it, let these people start lending money to the states. It's called as the Tables Turn People's Lending Program. So after this CRYO phasing, we can have the people lending program to support the state. And these people who were successful enough to accrue money and wealth with their hard work, smartness, and the knowledge can actually get incentives by helping their own states, by helping their own country. And their incentive program, because all of them are entrepreneurs and they have businesses, the incentive program can reflect to the people, to the employees of these people's companies. That will flourish the state and the country. Rebooting the planet Earth with the wonderful economy is all by brain. It's all by wonderful solutions. If I'm going to hear any economist or a CPA or any person in the business world says it's going to be really hard to reboot it, it's going to be really hard to bounce back from this crashed market, honestly, no. Only if you let it crash. Do not let it crash. Freeze it. Pan time or the P time. Let pan time end, pan time begin, pan time end whenever we are back to normal. Let the world economy and the world Fed and everybody, let them, the National Reserve, they can actually plan the monetary union. They can plan when and how to do it. I am not an economist, but there will be one organization on the top that controls the world's money. Let that, whatever that organization name is, let that organization put the pan time, end, and start time. So get the companies into it on a CRYO phase. CRYO phasing the economy, CRYO marketing, and voluntary inclusion into this CRYO market. And that way, it is like a freedom market. We are not forcing everybody to get into the CRYO phase. People who are not performing well can get into the CRYO phase. That is why it's called bioeconomics. And I have been repeating these terms because in terms of medicine, when we repeat, it gets registered and the thought process triggers the thought process to work. Some of the people, when they said, when some of my friends, when they say, oh, you're going to do a video, who's going to watch it? Okay, we have vloggers and we have 30,000, 40,000 people watching a vlogger. But this is my question. If my video is watched by 51 people of United States of America, that's more than enough. I do not need 51,000 viewers for my video. I only need the 51 viewers. Tell me, who are these 51 viewers? The President's task force and the task force teams of 50 governors. That's all it needs. Because these 51 viewers, they might take at least a half a point or a 0.1 point, which can be applicable to this current situation of a world's economy. Remember, my videos are recorded 100 years from now, because if people at this moment of time, 2020 COVID-19 period, is not willingly open-minded enough to take my suggestions, because everybody has suggestions, but I don't force. In medicine, we give you a treatment plan. We suggest you which is the best. We do not force you what you want to choose as your treatment option. Treatment 1, treatment 2, treatment 3, and US medicine has taught me a different aspect. Same thing applies. I am sharing my suggestions. I make sure that I take that extra efforts to have it reached to those 51 teams. That's all matters to me, because even if 0.1% help comes from me as a citizen of United States of America, I am happy about it for being alive. And that's what my purpose of life is. I want to be a resource. I want to add value to the United States of America. Today, President Trump has suspended temporarily the immigration. Good job, President Trump. And the reason behind it is, why do we need more resource from outside when we have abundance from inside? If we can train our citizens, our US citizens, all these EB3 category H1 visas will be taken up by our own young American job-seeking citizens. I don't want to have an American citizen getting no money without a job, and then I don't want to hire some people from another country. Why would I? I want our citizens to be employed. I want our economy to be flourished. Why are we want to support other people's economy when we are starving? We need to first nourish ourselves. Good job, President Trump, and keep it up. Keep doing the good job. And there is more to come from him. He's been awesome. Liberate texts. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. I love what he did. This should not be viewed in a term that the president of the country is triggering protests. That's not how it's supposed to be viewed. The thought process is wrong when you read it wrong. It's you who do the mistake, whoever thinks he is wrong. The media keeps blaming him and talking bad about him. Listen, there is 3 aspects in a politician. Politics is not a bad field. There are a lot of people think politics is bad. And I come from a different background where they think the politics is not good. That's how they think. No, I am a woman and I want to get into politics. And the reason behind it is I want to help the world. And no matter if I have a power, if I don't have a power, it does not stop me from helping the world. And that's one of the reasons I'm making this video and recording it and making sure that the 51 teams will watch and will get at least a 0.1% benefit out of it. That's all I could do, So Speaking about back to, I'm going to talk about the liberation, but before that, I'm still not done. And once we start and reboot the economy, so we talked about, again, to cap up, we talked about cryo facing, we talked about CRYO Market, we talked about cryo stock market, voluntary inclusion into the cryo stock market, we talked about the term bioeconomics, and now I want to talk, and then we talked about the pan time or the P time, the P ends and the P begins and the P ends. So that way we are rebooting planet Earth, okay, and we are rebooting the economy, so there is no losses in terms of jobs, and there is no losses in terms of economy or crash, and the rebounds would be harder. So we prevent a crash from happening. Speaking on jobs, I want this to happen. Once the Triple P program is honored and once the money is taken by all the SBA people, I really want this to happen. Let's not lay off jobs. Let's not lay off people. Let all these people, they can just apply to their task force. They can apply to their local state task force for unemployment. But this is the request to all these employers out there. Rehire them once all this is over. Who defines it? We define it. Who is we? Human beings. What are we called? Homo sapiens. And what we do about it? We're gonna help President Trump to reboot our USA economy. How? By rehiring. People, on the other hand, we need to have a shared economic plan. What does it mean? A shared plan is we need, as a responsible citizens of the world, I am not talking about one country, I'm collectively talking about the whole world. Because this model I'm suggesting for the USA will apply to any part of the world's economy, because I have generalized it. And so what happens is when we have a shared economic plan, meaning if somebody is getting paid $18 of an hour, you're going to take a voluntary pay cut. But not just you, the entire staff. So what happens is it relieves the burden of the employer. So the employer, instead of able to hire 2 or 3 people, it's going to double. The employer is going to keep the whole staff in place. And the government, after this second stimulus, the second pumping up of money is over, do not pump up more money. Enough. That's enough, because you have helped really well. And I think some people even misused that. So that's enough. But we request you to actually work on food. Remember, we wanted people to keep transparency, and we want the feds to tell how much needs to be stacked up. Like, say, keep in your savings account, keep up to $10,000 to $15,000. If somebody doesn't even have $1,000 in their account, let them be transparent in showing their account, and I know that IRS can track anything if somebody can lie. So we live in a world where everything is very transparent and truthful. So what I would suggest is, if somebody really doesn't have $1,000, the government needs to make sure prioritize them and send food checks. So that way they can feed their family. This is in case after spending all the money, the $250 billion for the next set of pumping into the economy, and if we run out of that in like a day or 2, because I heard from some bankers saying that there's already like thousands of applications in wait list. So it's not going to feed everybody. They're all going to be exploited out, or it's going to run out. It's going to be gone. And then it's not going to be really used for the purpose it was pushed into. What we really need is food, shelter, medicines. And people, now I want to suggest on the liberate. What liberate really means is there is a bipartisan problem that's going on in this country. The Democrat side really wants to take off the government and they want to just ditch President Trump, which is not right. This man is tirelessly working hard. I cry when somebody hurts me. And I see Donald Trump take the blame and the hate all the time. And he's just a beautiful human being. He's still standing there to protect you. Nobody asked him to give the stimulus package. He did it on his own. Nobody asked him to push money. And people kept complaining. People said Donald Trump wants his signatures to be on the checks. I mean, most of the stimulus packages came in direct deposit. Where is this checks concept coming from? I don't understand. Many of my staff received their stimulus package through their direct deposit. So I don't understand. So they really need to understand that people are getting checks, people are getting direct deposits, some people are getting in different channels, and people need to understand that it's just the media trying to embed so many journalism and try to change the terms. President Trump is a very successful man. He has his own success. At his age, he could have sit and relaxed. The whole world, the US, not the whole world, actually many countries love him. Though some people in the US, they try to hate him, they try to make fun of him, bully him, whatever. He's there to help us. He is the first man and he is the president. Please respect your president. Do not disrespect any country's president or prime minister. They are there to help us, especially in this pandemic. I've been loving all these governors of all the states trying to take the blame to tell, and I heard Governor Cuomo say, blame me, the protesters, to all the protesters. The Ohio state governor, the Texas state governor, they just openly said, if you're upset, I'm so sorry, but blame me, come on. That is a human gesture. That is very beautiful. And I am seeing all the 50 governors, thanks to them, they have come in union to work together. So back to the request. Ask the People's Lending Program. That way, these big achieved entrepreneurs will lend you money. That way, that money that's stocked up will help the state instead of the state pushing the Fed, and the Fed does not have the money that it might push the US economy down. We do not want to lose the economy of US. We want to stay with President Trump in his three-phased recovery. The earlier we start, the protected we are on the vulnerables, the human race is preserved.
Here's the point. If we redouble our efforts to protect our most vulnerable senior citizens, we can reduce COVID-19 deaths while also expanding business operations and increasing the number of Texans reentering the workforce. To achieve these goals, Phase 1 does several things. It emphasizes the importance of vulnerable populations remaining at home if at all possible. If they need to get out, businesses should make special accommodations to limit the exposure that our vulnerable population has to people who may have COVID-19. We will also redouble our efforts to protect seniors in nursing homes and other senior living facilities. That includes things like better infectious disease protocols at senior living centers. The bottom line is this: the more we do to protect our vulnerable senior population, the faster we can safely open business in Texas. Next.
Talked about the shared plan, And then I thank the governors. And please do not complain on the federal. I request governors. You are all awesome. All the 50 governors. I have so far sent messages to our Texas governor, Greg Abbott. I love him. He's awesome. I sent my reverse approach model so far to 3 governors and the president, because this approach model actually has suggestions and classifications and categorizations to protect the vulnerable so we can reopen the economy really fast. And I've made sure that this reverse approach model has reached my home country of India and also our opponent country of India, which is also a good friend, which is Pakistan. And the reason behind it is, if one economy goes down, the other economy should not take advantage. It should be a unison. Look at the borders that opened for the temple in between India and Pakistan on the Gurudwara. That's awesome. The borders, the world leaders have shut down the borders for a reason, and we have to respect it. And the borders are not there, and world leaders have suspended wars, which is very awesome, because why there should be wars between people? There should not be wars. There should not be wars even after COVID-19 is left. We need to understand. And so we talked about the shared plan where the people will take equal share, so support employers so that the employers are not having to fire people or lay off, so that the 22 million will be having their jobs back. So I request all the employers, if you can rehire and restructure and get the shared plan program from each and every employee company, so that you don't have to fire employees. So all the 22 million people that lost their jobs will be hired back and will have a job when the COVID-19 starts. So people have not lost jobs. People have not lost homes. Loss is prevented with these actions. So economy is not crashing because we have CRYO marketed all the stock market. Crude oil is not going to crash because they have voluntarily get into the freezing mode. Look into it. How easy of a solution, how simple is it is. And I want to address the pacts formed by the various governors in a collaborative effort. I do not know how many people that are watching, the viewers, the regular viewers, other than the 51 people of the task force team, the 51 task force teams. I want to address the pacts, that wonderful, the thinking these governors came up with. So, so the California, Washington, and one more state. I guess I'm not sure. So let's just go Google the Western Pac. So when I look at the Western Pac coronavirus, I Google it, and Oregon, so the Oregon. So California, Oregon, and Washington have made their Western Pac. And then also the Midwestern, and I want to Google the Midwestern Pac. So let me do that. Midwestern Pact. So, and why I'm doing this is because I really want, so there are 7 Midwestern governors that collaborated, and I've been listening to Governor Cuomo's speech. I really love the email response, even though that's automated, sent to any citizen, whoever tries to reach out to Governor Cuomo. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. And I want to say hi to your daughter, Mariah, and her lovely boyfriend. And thanks for your NDS, the Natural Defying Syndrome. It's awesome. So Governor Cuomo has been phenomenal. And I just have one request, Governor. please stay with our president. I know sometimes it's hard. It's very difficult when you are in the situation when you are the only governor in the whole country to face each and every day with a lot of deaths and other problems that comes with it. But please stay with President Trump because you have a lot of potential, and I would be thinking to seeing more of you in the future. You've been amazing. And then I also sent an email as approach to California governors so far, these 3 governors. And the Texas governor is amazing. I live in Texas, and he has made the state very livable. So I made sure that along with my reverse approach model, along with my new theory that I've been working on with the antibody testing with IgD. So when there is IgG and IgM, there is IgD also, and which needs to be inclusive in the antibody testing. I mean, if they have rolled out, if they don't want to do it, at least in the vaccine process, it has to be checked into and mapped into because it's very important. And I will be sending more data on that whenever I collect and I work out more of that articles, and to make sure that I can input as much as I can as Dr. San on that field of research. But this video is on economy. So while I am thanking all these governors, I presented myself to the California state governor, my reverse approach model, and there's a couple things I wanted to address so that there are no people without shelters in California, because we want to reduce that rate. I suggested an affordable living colony so that those people that are on the shelters that have been moved to Motel 6 and stuff like that, they can be actually helped by this affordable living colony, because as a governor, we need to make sure that we provide affordable home opportunities in a very expensive market. I don't want more people to move to Texas just because California became unaffordable, and I don't want Texas to change. Texas is such a beautiful community home state. I don't want people from California to move here and increase our home prices, make it unaffordable, and become another California. I do not want that to happen. Please fix your state's problem, because that is the problem in California, and I've lived there and I know the problems with that. And that's what President Trump keeps tweeting about it. We really need to make sure we need to work on that. So the Midwestern governors, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, all these 7 governors have announced the Midwestern Pact. And this is wonderful. And also there is Eastern Pact. So let's Google that if I can pull out any more data on the Eastern Pact. I don't think so. It's kind of the Eastern Pact. So I really don't get an Eastern Pact right now, but I know I heard Governor Cuomo talk about him collaborating with the governors of Florida, with the governors of Connecticut, because I know he talked about the marinas that's open. Same thing with the Texas state governor. Please, I don't think so. The state parks, just monitor it. If we are spreading viruses through the state parks, they're not essential. They can be closed. The sea, because of the way the salt is, only if they really dip into the salt water, corona can likely not survive in the salt water, but not necessarily regular parks. So we need to make sure that the parks may not be included in the essential services. Some states opened it. Please warn the other states if you start seeing an increase in the spike of this corona because of the opening of the state parks. Monitor it. Do the trial, and if it doesn't work, let's just temporarily close it out again. It's okay. Once open, we can close it temporarily. It's not a problem. It's not an issue, because who creates the rules? Us. Let's just change the rules accordingly as needed. Okay, so we talked about all of this, and then I just wanted to make sure all people of the world, whoever is protesting, you have the right to protest, but please use social distancing. Please use masks. It's okay to vent out your anger. It's okay to express your feelings. And that's what President Trump did. He wanted people to be expressive so that the governors are not doing a one-sided rule, because sometimes it's like an overprotective parent. Some governors can become overprotective, and President Trump wants to make sure, he just wants to keep a watch on all of this and just give you guidance. It was not trying to trigger people. It was just giving guidance. It's like if there's an overprotective parent, you know, the school can just say, or the teacher can just say, hello, liberate. That's what exactly he did. So speaking about which, so I addressed the liberation part. So we have right now the three-phased reopening of the economy. I hope the people stay united in their hearts and their minds in terms of social distancing, still keeping their masks on their faces, or keep distance from people if they do not, because US did not mandate masks. If you want to cover the mask in some states which does not have mandates, it's up to you. It's a voluntary thing. Some states has a mandate, which I'm not sure, but follow your local government's rules. You have the right to express your feelings. But instead of protesting, or if you want to express your feelings, people, can we follow more of a non-violence technique? Let's not yell. Let's be calm. Let's just go take the banner and then just say, put the banners out and then put the banners down. You can do like a flash mob with the banners coordinated movement. The speaker phones that you have, you can just do a coordinated movement. It's more silenced, but at the same time, you are actually telling them, you're expressing their views, and it is not like a protest. We don't want you to protest. We would request you to stay with your government. But if you want to express your feelings, take a non-violent route. At this point of time, this guns and this protests and this violence, we do not need it. Let the military and the Marine and the Navy be deployed in our nursing homes. We want to protect our senior citizens. The money that you get on your stimulus package, who gave that money? It's them. It's their money that was on the cash reserve of the United States of America. Those senior citizens worked hard to make this country on the top, to make this country a better place. We need to show our respect to our senior citizens. They are golden, and we need to preserve them. They are not like a non-productive people. We need to respect. They are our treasure. We are what we are today is because of them. And I would drop into tears if every time I would see that a senior citizen is being dying, or the body stacked up in the nursing home. One nursing home has 55 deaths in less than 2 hours. It hurts. More than the virus, more than the economy, I went through a phase of hurt because of tears and because of people not realizing how important this world is to us, to be more responsible, each and every person of us. It's very, very important. The governors are trying to help, and I've already addressed a lot of things the governors can use from my presentation today, and the world economy can learn. And more to come from Dr. Sun, the bioeconomist, and the person. I'm a reformist, and the power is something when people elect. I elected myself. I represent the world. I represent the government. I represent President Trump. I do not need these little roles and titles and stuff. If I have to take care of this world, and if I have to help the world, I will do it even without any titles. But the only thing is, if I'm given the power, this is going to be a little different. It will be into action soon. So that is why I will want to get into politics in the long run. But right now, At least I want to make sure that this information is heard so that the world cures fast. Because it's not about me, it's about us, it's about all of us, and it's about the world, and it's about you actually. So I want to make sure that we all take equal responsibilities as human beings, Homo sapiens. It's not about one country, it's about all countries. It's not about one state and one governor, it's about all the states and all the governors. It's not about one task force, it's about all the task force of all the 50 states and working together in unison with the president's task force. We do not want to fire anybody at this time. CDC is helping us, CDC is guiding us. And because in front of the Texas Capitol, Austin, people were shouting, fire Fauci, fire. No, we do not want that, because he's been helping us, and we really need to make sure that we have to have our respect to these doctors. The doctors out there, they have been helping. We need to make sure. Mr. Pence has been amazing. I really can relate to him. He's very calm. I really liked him when he did the Air Force graduation ceremony. It relates to us. When Governor Cuomo talked about his kids, it relates to us as a parent. These are beautiful people, irrespective of what parties they belong to. We are human beings. We are patriotic citizens of America, United States of America. May God bless America. May God bless Texas. Let's all be in this together to beg a better world, in making of a better start for all of us in the end of 2020 to 2021 to come, where the 2021 will be a beautiful world, no wars, only love and care and slow growth on economy, and to a beautiful flourish in 2022. So let's hope for the best. More to come from Dr. Sun, and see you. Bye-bye. Ciao.